Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, our dear viewers, those that keep us company every weekend. We couldn't be more grateful. Thank you for sticking to Muslim Channel Uganda on Facebook, and we are now on YouTube. You can visit and subscribe. I'm called Ssebagala in the studios, and as usual, we are hosting a couple of good friends and be saying hi in a bit. But the show is Islam Now, and for today we are looking at the week in focus. Last week we were looking at the contributions and the impact of American politics on the world of Islam, and we were looking at Islamophobia in general. Now for today we want to look at the events both in Uganda and beyond the borders, but we want to focus more on the events that have been occurring. It has been a very dramatic week in Uganda in the legal, political, and social aspects, and we are looking at breaking down those today. A couple of good friends, counsel, as they say, please say to the viewers.
Good afternoon, viewers. Thank you for watching.
Now, Akampa, yesterday Uganda was making 58 years of independence, and we celebrate that. Now, there are very many questions that accrue to that, whether Africans are supposed to be, whether independence is supposed to be celebrated in the first place. But let's look at Uganda in this case. Should Uganda be celebrating independence? Is it worthwhile?
My view is we shouldn't be celebrating what we don't have. We don't have independence, and we can't really be celebrating it. It was just a simple change in the way the colonialists were administering their colonies. So that simple change shouldn't be a reason for us to get excited and spend billions celebrating maybe a simple one to remember the event when they were trying to change their style of administration. But there is no independence literally to celebrate.
What do we have then?
We simply have indirect, I still call it indirect rule, because you can't claim to be independent when you can't have a currency without someone's interference, when you can't have an economy where someone doesn't dictate how it should be run, when you can't have a political leader of your choice, when you can't have even the smallest things like developments in your own way or choice. Really, you can't claim to be independent.
No, but speaking of that, I was having a conversation with, it must be you, you were looking at the variations in roads, and you gave an example of a road that was being supervised by the Ugandan government, and one that was funded and supervised by the European Union. And in there you said the European Union found the road that had been made as the Ugandan roads are being made, and it was a crappy job. So would one say that the insistence of the European Union that the road gets repeated, it gets redone to a standard, would someone have to think like Bobby said, that we were better under colonialism than the kind of leadership we have today?
Of course, one would say we are better because now some things we are allowed to mismanage. We are allowed to, like at the lowest structures, we are allowed to mismanage those things without taking any impact or a slight impact. But of course, his argument maybe would be justified in a way that even then, when we are working on a project which is our own, funded by our own government, we tend to do it in a poor way. And yet, the other one by the colonialists, so-called donors and the funders, tends to be very good and better done. But remember, there are conditions that are always attached to those projects.
Yes.
When the European Union, all Japan or whatever entity or country gives you money to construct a road, there is always what they want from you in return, and that is the royalty. And then too, they always want to keep watching you as you progress to make sure that you are still in their hands. And they have managed that, and that's how we run short of having our own independence. These are guys who even determine how much you should borrow. At least if they allowed a particular country to borrow a lot so that it comes up quickly. But they make sure you borrow or you get what can't take you to where you want to be. where they would be
But
disadvantaged.
looking at a country like Uganda, even if they were allowed to borrow to a sum that they want, when they can't even utilize the small amounts that are provided to them, would it make any difference?
Yes, it would make a difference, because remember, they would probably steal part of it, then the other bigger part remains for development. We've seen it. We've seen massive borrowing by countries like Brazil,
yes,
and it helped them. But it's like when you want to have a business to start a business of 20 million, and your funder gives you 5. You are underfunded, that this business cannot work the way you wanted it to work. It won't bring any returns that you would have wanted, and it keeps there. But if they gave you a lot, probably you would have your business come up and then it grows, and that's what Brazil did.
I want us to look at the example of Brazil that you're giving us. Now, we shall see, we have seen rather President Dilma Rousseff getting impeached because of corruption. Now, she said that was a political case, but whether political or not, that part notwithstanding, if say you had a business that paid, or if you had a job that paid you 1 million per month, and the other one had a job that paid them 5 million per month, and the person that is earning 5 million uses about 4.5 to earn developmental stuff, and then you are utilizing the 1 million. I think that at the end of the day, a country like in Uganda is in the mess that we are in, because we don't have the financial discipline to control even the little resources.
We surely don't have the financial discipline, but remember, we also have that challenge that even if we would, we probably, if we had got exactly what we wish to have in as far as the lending or borrowing is concerned, it would probably push us so that we can manage to service our loans. But now you give bits, you give us for COVID and we have to pay back, then we swindle that, then another group on another funny government comes in next year or the other year, you also give them a bit, they also swindle that one. But if it comes at a one go, probably it will make an impact at once, and then you have now capacity to pay as you become a developed country.
So you think there would be enough to steal and enough to live for development?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think is the way out? How can African countries and maybe the other Asian and Latino countries achieve independence in the actual sense that independence should be?
It must start with integration. Integration in a way that you have probably, if you have one military, one currency, then one administrative unit in the center, and then that would make you a force, a powerful country. Like for example, if Africa, if the southern part of Africa was one nation, it would be having a lot of negotiating power over whoever would come for them or would want to make them vulnerable by dividing them into small states.
Now, looking a little bit at the intentions of integration, they normally say that Gaddafi, it's on record, it's in history books, Gaddafi helped very many governments to ascend to power in Africa. But at the same time, there are conspiracies that actually say that the same governments that Gaddafi helped the whites in entrenching Libya and doing what they did, and then the massive uprisings, and of course the no air stuff, and of course eventually dethroning him. Do we have the will as Africa to have blocks that are powerful enough, minus reporting to our bosses in the West?
There is that lack of will, because we tend to have greedy leaders, and actually even himself kind of was greedy, and that's why his motive failed at one point.
How do you mean that?
Why I would say that is, he thought that United States of Africa must be the leader. You can start a project where you don't have to lead it, and another one starts from where you stop. So he ought to have started it maybe when he was 10 years in government, and then by 15 he begins to develop that cohesion, and then by 20 years he leaves and makes sure that the person who comes after him continues with the project. Probably it will be sustainable. But you can't sustain it as an individual. Other presidents will begin to be insecure. Remember, as you help one government, as you help probably President Museveni to overthrow the junta, or to overthrow Boti, remember he will always remember that you helped him to overthrow the other one. You can equally help another group to get rid of him. So he's also insecure with you. He can't trust you. So the whole thing is, do it, leave, and let another person start from there, and maybe these ones that you have helped will feel secure. At one point, African leaders felt so insecure with Gaddafi himself than even the worst. That's the point.
Thank you, Akamba. Now, I want us to, what do you think is the way forward? What do you think happens? Is Africa going to drag herself along like this for how long?
Of course, we believe one day, as empires come and go, kingdoms rise and fall. We believe that one day, this empire that has been built by America maybe will collapse, and probably it will be an opportunity for some countries to come up. But remember, the prepared ones will manage to come up and rise. But Africa still is still staying behind, because even if China was to rise today, we would still see China China making sure that Africa doesn't rise, because they depend on its status, like it being low. That's what helps them. So it still calls, we still need to work hard and have an integration. We can begin with 2 or 3 states until when we can finally have one bigger state, or 2, but on one continent.
A discussion on integration can actually be a day's topic on itself, and we don't finish it, because look at the scuffle between Uganda and Rwanda, and one of these guys is the chairperson of the African Union. And like I said, it's a whole lot for just a few minutes. Now, I wanted us to look at the crisis. I think that it's even appropriate to term it that way. The crisis in Kawempe North, in as far as the National Unity Platform is concerned. They picked Muhammad Ssegirinya as the flag bearer for the Kawempe North constituency seat. Latif Ssebagala, who had been given the flag for the Lord Mayor, makes a U-turn, the 5th one in 3 years, and he says that he wants to stand there, but on an independent ticket. Now, those are 2 guys subscribing to the same party in the same constituency. Where does that leave the party? The party sits, the top command, the top leadership sits, makes a decision, gives a flag to someone, and then another one that is a senior politician that's supposed to show the young party away comes up, and now they are told, what are the dangers in that? What's the party supposed to go?
One, the party itself is founders of a party ought to have agreed on particular ideas and to follow some ideology. There was none like an ideology common for all. When the wave came up of people power, which of course is also part of NUP, everyone was trying to join it to keep political relevancy, to make sure they are up to the game.
Yes.
So they joined, including the Latif, including the Council Ssegona, among others. And they had to join because they had no choice. So they did not have something like to have to keep them together. And then even the way they selected the flag bearers leaves a lot wanting.
Yes.
But at the end of it all, of course, we perceive Latif Ssebagala as I would say a confused politician. He ought to have seen all this before he made a decision to say, okay, let me get a flag for Kampala, for Lord Mayor Kampala. Then after a few weeks or a few months, you think it's not the right decision, even when you have already, those who needed that opportunity have already lost it. You took it, then you abandon it, then you go back to Kawempe, then you come as an independent because they have already selected another flag bearer. Then you want to be an independent against your own the flag bearer. it leaves a lot wanting. But of course, when it comes to Ugandan politicians, do they have any reputation? That is the question. Do they have conscience?
On that,
very few.
On that particular subject, I watched Latif last week, and he was asked the question why he was making U-turns and back and forth, and he gave the Museveni classic answer. Every time they accuse Museveni of overstaying in leadership, he says that people force him, people push, people ask. And it's the same answer that Latif gave. Latif said that the voters in Kawempe North have been begging. He said they are pleading that he goes to represent them. Now, Latif is in opposition. He's been in opposition for more than the 20 years that he's in parliament. Do you think that Museveni has cultivated a ground of crookery that people will make such statements to further their agendas?
Of course, the entire political system in Uganda has been bastardized, that that no one cares. Now, people have requested me, will there be a moment where there won't be a few people telling you to do something, even if it was wrong? The question is, even if people tell you to do this, do you find it proper? But of course, as I said, including even the mentor, maybe the one he borrowed the principle from, none of them cares about the truth, cares about reputation, cares about what their conscience tells them. They have demonstrated that over time.
Thank you, Akam. Now, the political environment in Uganda in 2021, I get this feeling that it won't be as hot as it was in 2016, save for the people power sensation. And I'm looking at that, basically on the FDC. Bigirwa stepped down for Engineer Patrick Amuriat, for him to, he's now the FDC presidential flag bearer. Do you even see FDC coming forth in the 2021 elections?
Not really. Number one, Uganda hasn't embraced multi-party politics. And personally, of course, I told you I don't subscribe to multi-party politics, given even the history of our country and its nature, heterogeneous, so many, 50 plus tribes, and then you divide yourselves into political parties. Again, that makes it, they are also tribes of some kind. Now, the whole idea of 2021 and being maybe a hotly contested election, the thing is, without Ssebagala, who had been perceived as the main and maybe the most right person to challenge Museveni, now I'm leaving the parties aside because I believe Ugandans don't subscribe to parties. The whole idea is that without Ssebagala in the race, I don't see Museveni having any issues with anyone. I mean, he will just get his win through easily. Because one, Ssebagala knew how President Museveni easily manipulates elections, how he does his things. Then probably he also had insiders who would inform him about a couple of things, that they are doing this, they are changing this, they are having their reforms changed from this place. So he was a challenger who had been inside, who would know what is about to happen or what is happening. But again, as I said, people haven't embraced parties in a way that you can find an FDC candidate winning here, and President Museveni wins in the same place, and with a landslide win. Then that shows you that people go for personalities, people go for individuals, not parties. But however popular a party may be in some place, if they love someone, they can leave the party aside and vote for the person.
But on that note, what does that say of Ssebagala? Because like you said about Gaddafi earlier, that he thought that he was the only man that could further the union of African states himself, if he thought he would do that. Now we have someone like Ssebagala, whom you think was a power to reckon with Museveni, and now he's gone. He's been leading the FDC for more than a decade, but he does not have someone with as much charisma like him to carry the mantle on. What does that speak of a man like Ssebagala?
Well, of course, we should not be mistaken to think that Museveni and his team are seated. They are not seated. They are making sure that whatever party comes and is closer to challenging them doesn't get peace. It doesn't go on easily to mobilize. Of course, people were there. General Muntu was one of those people who are close to the character and personality of Besigye. Then we have...
No, Akampa, if you say that General Muntu was close to the character of Besigye, that's extremely debatable, because there has always been this fiction of he's too gentle and all. If you say that he was close to what? His work?
Of course, I would see him as a perfect replacement of Besigye, in a way that he had been in NRM, he had been in the army in UPDF, he had been around Museveni, so he can easily probably put up a serious challenge than this engineer who had been in other businesses.
Okay, let's brush off for a very short break. We shall be back in a minute. Thank you for watching. We catch up from there. Thank you for sticking with us. Muslim Channel Uganda. The show is Islam Now. I'm called Ssebagala, and we have Councillor Kampura Godfrey in the studios. We are looking at the weekend focus. We are looking at the events that have occurred in Uganda since the time that we are here, and of course beyond the borders. Now, we were on the FDC discussion, and I want us to do that very fast and move on. Now, if you look at General Muntu and the FDC, he left in 2017 after the the party president elections. He was citing irregularities and unfairness, so he started his own party. Now, a place has opened. Men are saying that he would have done better than Amuriat in the general elections. What is your view? Do you think Muntu left so early, so fast?
Yeah, I believe so, and I believe he's the most ready person who should have maybe replaced Besigye for flag bearership of presidency. But of course, he was already gone, and that's why we are going to see the most boring election since 2001. Actually, since ever,
96,
ever since 89. Yes, I don't see any serious challenger who has structures on ground, who has built maybe support coming against Museveni. I don't see.
You're saying that the people normally allege that Museveni wins because of rigging and all. You think they don't have to go that far this time?
This time he doesn't have to even rig. He doesn't have to do a lot of voter bribery, as it is always the case. He will win.
Yeah, okay. Well, we wait to see that. Now, Ham pulled off huge. It was huge. $33 million in a court case that was involving Diamond Trust Bank. He said they debited his account without his consent. Now, the Bank Association of all banks in Uganda complaining that that was a very unfair judgment. Last I saw Museveni was saying that they're waiting for the detailed judgment from Judge Odoyu. What do you think? You're a lawyer. Where did it go wrong? Very many people normally complain that the government is negligent. It's not really taking care of Ugandans and as far as the banking aspect is concerned. What's your view?
Well, it has, of course, starting with government. We all know it has become a serious problem that government institutions are no longer functioning properly. Actually functioning, they are no longer functioning. So those are the signs, those are the symptoms of the collapse of the institutions. Back to the banking and Uganda Bankers Association, and then the case. There is a lot that has been ongoing. There is a lot that banks have been doing that is wrong, that is illegal, and the public had reached an extent of saying, well, they are powerful, let them do it that way.
We buy wooden boxes.
Then they had, others have adopted that. So the public had resigned to that. So it had to take a powerful man or someone relatively powerful to take them on. And this is not the first time it's happening. There is another case at Emerald Hotel where DFCU Bank did something similar. There is another one by Barclays Bank. Yes. Now, they have been doing a lot and getting away with it. This time they were only unfortunate that the man had to pursue them. He pursued them. And I wonder why they did not even opt to maybe settle him before it could go that far. But of course, you know, when you're used to that kind of doing business, you think you can push it. And then I believe if they appeal and appeal, maybe at one point they can still have him get him give up or still win. But there is a number of cases where banks have lost, including the famous Zawe case about powers of attorney, and then how a lot of fraud is done by banks. A lot of fraud. But they do it and get away with it. And now for Zawe, he lost from High Court up to when Supreme Court came in and helped him. And then that's when he got justice. So harm is not about to get the benefits of his judgment. They will drag him on until Supreme Court.
Well, I have this friend that normally complains that what banks do, of course it's hearsay that makes it an allegation at this point, that they debit 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 shillings from the accounts. And whereas you as an individual, it is negligible. You look at it and you say, it's just 2,000. But by the time they do it 10,000 accounts, then it's so much money that they have made from such an unfair procedure. But it still goes back to the government's responsibility, which is the cardinal responsibility of governments to take care of the citizens and their property. And then in the same vein, you have people saying that, no, this is somewhat an unfair judgment. And then investors would not know what to do because they say that people that have acquired loans, in the same way that Ham acquired this judgment sets a precedent for them, and their money is at risk, the business is at risk. Does that pose some sort of risk to the Ugandan economy? Is the Bank of Uganda supposed to come in at this point?
Definitely. Bank of Uganda's duty is to supervise. It has a supervisory role over all financial institutions. We, of course, will find Diamond Trust Bank is among them. And actually, I believe they ought to have come in even before it went that far. And asked, what is this that is going on? How come they can come up and say, okay, Crane Bank, you have done this, they fix it. This bank, National Bank of Commerce, then they ought to have been monitoring some of these things. Because as I said, it is a habit. Leave alone what you're calling it an allegation. Personally, it's not an allegation. I'm a victim. Two banks, Centenary and DFCU Bank. DFCU Bank, when there was this project of youth fund, I was a youth. So they sent marketeers, they called us to open accounts. Every account, they were extraordinary accounts. Every account was costing us 50,000 shillings. We were in thousands, actually tens of thousands of youth who opened those accounts. And guess what? There was nothing like youth fund. They had heard about it, they were trying to lobby it, but there was no youth fund. There was no money they were giving out to youth. But imagine 50,000 accounts opened, 50,000 per person, and then we forget about those accounts because every month they charge you 13,000 to run that account. So you have to forget about the account because you haven't even gotten the money that you are trying to get, that youth fund that you are trying to get to start a business. We forgot about those accounts and just sat back home. Now that meant 50,000 made in such a scam. Now, the question would be, as you said, where was Bank of Uganda? We didn't see such a thing was happening. I went to the media, I was on TV, talked about it. Nothing has ever been done about it. That is fraud. Yeah. Actually, there is no any other way you can term it except fraud.
Yeah, that's fraud. Thank you, Akampa. Now, I want us to go for a very quick break, and so we head to international affairs. But before we do, there was a bit of news yesterday that Monica Mukama had been declared as the winner of the Kazo woman MP election. She had lost it, but the same news, they were saying that Museveni had decided to declare her winner. Where does that put us with the 2021 elections? More chaos?
Yeah, definitely. It came about. I came across an article from a blogger that Monica Mukama has finally been declared the winner, but she lost. She went to the tribunal. Again, the tribunal found out that she had lost genuinely. Now that shows you that in the system we have today, there are those people, even when they lose, they will be declared winners. It's not only her. There is the Honorable Kuta, and there is Chris Wayumons, all of whom had actually lost. But for them, they managed to fix it at a lower level. She couldn't fix it even at the level of the tribunal. And now finally, when everything couldn't sort her, now the supreme leader sorts her out, and now she's the flag bearer.
The supreme leader. Thank you, Akampa. Thank you guys for watching. We have a YouTube channel. Please look for it, Muslim Uganda, rather a Muslim Channel Uganda. You subscribe, you tell your friends to subscribe, you like our program on Facebook. If you have a question, if you have a comment, just hit the like button and you can leave the comment there. Thank you. See you after the break. Welcome back. I'm Ssebagala, the host is Love Now. We have Councillor Kampora, a good friend. Now, the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, it's a conflict between the countries Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, when Stalin was still the leader of the USSR, he got these two regions and the surrounding 7 districts, and he made them part of Soviet Azerbaijan. However, the ethnic group that is there predominantly is Armenian. Now, these people have always wanted to go back. There was a conflict to that effect in 1988. Of course, it's supported by Armenia. Then we have another one in 1994. Then there was a ceasefire agreement to settling that down in 94. Now, in 2016, there was the violation of the ceasefire agreement. There was fighting, which was calmed down. It was in April 2016, after 4 days. Now, on 27th September this year, 2020, in the morning, a war broke out between Azerbaijan and an Armenian. Now, international analysts are predicting that the conflict was started by Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is being supported by Turkey, because Turkey is challenging the Russian influence in the region. And of course, last I heard, Armenia was calling on Russia to respect the treaty that they have, that one of them would come in to support them in case of an armed conflict, and Putin was still examining the effects. But with COVID-19 that has wrecked the world, and of course with the Trump effect, because we don't have an American president that can rally the NATO states to intervene in such situations, why should there be something like that in this day and age, that a certain country that rightfully possessed these since the USSR times has been having this region that has a clan, a tribe, a people from some other state, but that form part of this? Why should it be there that it has to be conflicted when internationally they know where they're supposed to belong?
One, there is a problem that was set by, I would call it the New World Order, by the colonialists when they had all that power they had, and by the powerful nations over the smaller nations. When they were demarcating boundaries, they made serious errors that are permanent. that will keep conflicts over and over again. Of course, we appreciate the fact that the conflicts in this region, this particular region, yeah, the conflict is as old, I think, as old as thousands of years maybe. But leaving that aside, demarcation of borders was an issue. Why would you have a different people in another nation? Why wouldn't you let them be a nation of itself? And that is why such a people would continue agitating that let us be independent, let us be this, or we want to belong to this nation, rather than the other nation where you forced us.
But
then the other nation would want to keep it because it believes it's their territory. And that is where the conflict always comes.
If you go back to what you normally refer to as the international recognition of countries, there is a republic, a self-declared republic, Artsach, that fights on the side of Armenia. Then there is Azerbaijan claiming people that that were given to them, Soviet Union. I mean, those countries. If you were to look at the demarcations, still maybe that you would have to make it the responsibility of Joseph Stalin, because yes, the demarcations were there, but he got this place and made it part of Azerbaijan. But if you look at the Republic of Artsach, and then you have Armenia, what kind of mess is going on? Because Armenia is fighting to get this area, but then it's supporting a self-proclaimed republic. What's that?
Of course, interests, as we always say, interests. What are the interests of Armenia in this region? And then Azerbaijan that also wants to own it by force, or by hook or crook. They say, yeah, it's ours. The question is, if you go back to history, how did you get it? If it was given to you, and then it's saying we don't want to be with you, why should you force yourself on them? And of course, all that comes with politics. So Armenia has interests that they may not come out to tell anyone or tell the world, and that's why they would support. And then remember, being an enemy to Azerbaijan, they can still choose to support anything that weakens the other enemy. Like, you always want to support an enemy of your enemy so that your enemy weakens. So that can also be part of the interests of Armenia.
Do you think that Turkey and Russia can resolve this, or do we need the West on board?
It's not easy. I remember the West and its class monitor. Apparently, yes, apparently have issues. They have a lot on their plate, so they wouldn't want to get into that at the moment. And then remember, Russia has been also struggling to have influence in all that region, throughout up to Pakistan, Afghanistan. Actually, there has been a struggle between Turkey and Russia to have control over the region. And of course, when then the USSR supports Turkey indirectly for reasons that are also well known between US and Russia. Now, Turkey will definitely have to support a side that that doesn't recognize the influence, that wouldn't want Russia to have any influence around the region.
But in this case, we have Russia that has a military pact with Armenia. Then you have Turkey fighting on the side of Azerbaijan because they are Muslims and all. And of course, the fight to control Central Asia. But then what happens, because you have two countries that are supposed to help the UN and resolve this, but the two countries are so entrenched in the war that they have visible interests in them. And of course, the West is busy with Trump. So what do you think, what are the prospects in as far as the war is concerned? Is it going to end, or are we looking at 1988?
Of course, they will slaughter themselves at a point, and reach a point as the international community makes noise, and then they maybe get into some agreements, which of course is a cool-off, because remember, the conflict will not have been resolved, and then at another point, the war will begin again, and on, like we have seen it, that it's not the first time they are fighting. And remember, what causes the fight has never been resolved. Because if it's an issue of territory, and then people within that territory, tribes, and there is a tribal element, then you really have to do a lot to have it sorted. So some of these things are just symptoms of some challenges that, and then international community comes in, sorts the symptoms for a while, and then the disease comes again, then sorts the symptoms, the disease crops up again and again.
There is this interesting bit I was looking at. Now, Armenia and the Republic of Artsach, they declared martial law, and of course they started mobilizing. Now, Azerbaijan, who is the internationally recognized holder, trustee of the area, for them they declared curfew in the area. So you look at one declaring curfew, and then you look at the state declaring curfew, and you wonder what is going on. But anyway, that's. I think we are going to have, with COVID, people, the hands of people are full. I mean, look at Yemen; it hasn't been resolved in quite some time. We are going to have to go over the Nagorno-Karabakh area for quite some time. We shall be keeping you updated. It's an ongoing conflict. Two countries are fighting over an area, just small, 8 districts, like how you can look at southwest Uganda and a bit of the West Half. So, of course, we hope that because people are dying, there is plenty of shelling every day. So we hope that that comes to an end very soon, but it's really not foreseeable. Now, Trump was diagnosed with coronavirus recently. He left Walter Reed on Monday. He was in a helicopter. For those of us that have been following COVID-19, when it was starting to surge in the East, in China, North Korea, and Iran, that was 2020, January. Trump was calling it a hoax. The first case reported in Europe was in France between the 19th and the 24th of Jan. This very year. He still called it a hoax until it appeared in the United States. Then he downplayed it. Then he joined Bolsonaro to call it a fantasy. But eventually it caught up with him and he was diagnosed with the virus. Do you think it was political melodrama? Do you actually think that Trump had the virus?
I would, of course, with the world of politics, anything is possible, and a politician will do anything, probably to keep to up his game. So you can't rule out politics being involved, and you can't rule out
the possibility of
it being true.
Virus.
But the timing also. He has been around, he has been careless, and then finally, shortly before elections, he contracts coronavirus.
But how would that help Trump?
Of course.
I mean, him admitting that he has the virus that he has disputed to exist for this long.
Of course, one, because there has been a lot of media pressure, and maybe from even citizens of the United States, on how he was downplaying it, on how he was calling it a hoax, and maybe he can try to play around to show that finally I agree with you people that we have a problem, finally we need to settle this, finally I'm a victim, finally there is this and this to work on.
But is it Joe Biden, the opponent, has been insisting that there is a virus. He has kept his mask on all this while. Trump has been having rallies. Now they have the first debate. We've been looking at polls since the beginning of the year, and Joe has been ahead, ranging from the time he started leading the elections. Now, if you look at this, you've been saying that the virus is not there. You have contracted the virus. Now, I would think that that gives the edge to the Democrats, not Trump. His diagnosis would rather be a positive contribution to the campaign of the Democrats, not the Republicans.
It would appear so, but you know, politicians, as I said, are funny. There is that reverse psychology involved, and then there is that need of sympathy, that the man has been sick, he was bedridden. there is that element. Then too, it can be true, as I said, that he contracted it and he had no choice but to face it, to go for treatment. He couldn't hide it, otherwise he risk actually dying. He chooses to take the truth as it is.
Thank you, Akampa. And for you guys that have been keeping us company, we appreciate that always. You please like the page, you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to like the page. You leave any comment, any question there. And of course, Akampa, we are always grateful to have you around. Now, as you say bye to our viewers, I would like you to sort of touch for us the people power movement, because it lacks one basic element: loyalty. That entrenched loyalty, like how you can look at a party like DP, which, well, are traditional parties, they are dying out, that is debatable lately. But if you would look at the 60s and 70s and 80s, do you think that the movement is going to become like NRM, and it has people that are there for very selfish benefits, and it builds its strength around that, or do you see it crumbling?
Actually, I don't see NUP and people power beyond 2021 general elections. It won't even go up to by-elections that will come up, because they will come up anyway. I know we'll go to court, some elections will be nullified, but it won't go to that level. Shortly after elections, nothing will be around, even the red colors that people are putting, because it's not, it doesn't have a background, it doesn't have, there is no loyal member. Actually, not even its president, Honorable Bobby Wine.
Do you think it would have been better had Bobby started his own party, not just buying something else?
It would not have made a big difference, because the whole group that came together did not have reasons to have them together. Like you would say, we share this, we share a common problem that we have to solve. They actually don't see any common problem. That's why one can easily pay 10 million to one of the members, and the members gives 10 million. He leaves 20, 30. One gets a car, and then tomorrow he's gone. Another one goes and visits and just shakes hands, and he's gone. Or she's gone. Or another one gets an appointment as an RDC or presidential advisor, which one can even, to the other day, dismiss you. No job security, but they still go. That shows you that they lacked a common ground, they lacked a common problem. They just came up one and found themselves together making noise, and then anything would make them disintegrate, and they have suffered disintegrated.
You would like to say bye to the viewers and thank them for?
Thank you for watching us. Continue liking us and watching the channel. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Council. Now, I repeat the same message that I say here every afternoon of Saturdays. The show is Islam Now, and we look at history, but we relate it with the contemporary issues that day-to-day Muslims face. Now we have the people power movement, and where that puts the Ugandan politics, that's a story for another day, that's a story for another time. But for now, where you have very many forces, where you have very many conspiracy theories that don't have any fact related to Islam, we have the responsibility as the Ugandan and world Muslims in general to backtrack, look for the knowledge, study, research. Every time we say something here, please you go and research on it, because we don't have much time, but you do. It is the age of the internet, you have the data, you have the time. Please look for the knowledge, know something, if not for your own sake, for the sake of Islam. Make this world a better place for the Muslims, for the Christians, but make sure that if something that is false, untrue, something that has no basis against Islam comes up, you have something to say to defend your own deen, because Islam can defend itself. It is a just religion. Just find out the knowledge. Thank you for keeping us company. I'm called Ssebagala. We've been hosting a Kampora Godfrey. See you next Saturday.